folks. I'm Noah Wallace with Wisconsin Air Gunners, and today we're going to walk you through what we have found to be the best process we know to change out the barrel of our FX Crown from 22 caliber to 30 caliber. There are plenty of videos out there of folks doing this, good videos, all of them, but this is what we have found to help us. So the very first thing I have on my crown set up, to be fair to everybody, is when I set this crown up with this Optison EVX 6-24 scope, this is a non-continuum crown. I guess you could call it a Gen 1 or Gen 2 crown, but the reality is that this is a crown that has the set bolts for the barrel on the top, not from the side. So a long time ago I realized that in order to get to the barrel and be able to change the barrel on the fly without messing with my scope mounts, that I would need to mount this set of mounts between these set screws here, and then there's no set screws back here that I have to worry about, so that was fine. And one of the things just so happens is these are the FX no limit mounts. And the thing I really liked about these is the fact that not only do they allow you that variable pitch to adjust for long range shots, is it just happens to fit right between the set screws. And so, and there's enough distance on these Optison scopes to be able to put this here and still allow me to adjust for proper eye relief back here for me. People are different, so mileage may vary for other folks, but I can originally set this up so that I was prepared and ready for swapping out these calibers. So we're going to be using these Eklund millimetric Allen wrenches. We're going to be using the 4mm, the 3mm, and the 2.5mm. Now I wanted to point out that by default from the factory, this length has to be shaved down on the 4mm so that it has proper clearance. When I come in here to get underneath here and put this into the set screw, I'm clearing the bottom of the scope as I unscrew this. Now we're not going to remove any of these, we're simply going to loosen these up, but as you loosen this up, the distance from here to the bottom of your scope shortens up, and by default this is too long. So I simply took this and basically filed off a 1/4 inch from factory off of this. And this basically, it's kind of easy to identify because it's going to be silver on the end for the simple fact of got ground down. So now that this has been filed down and it will fit under the scope, I tend to like to go from this side of the scope. You can certainly go from this side if you like, but obviously I'm over here so I can see it. These come from the factory. They are not world-ending tight. Therefore, we don't want to put them back world-ending tight. I wish I could tell you what the torque spec is. I do not know what the torque spec is from FX, but I do know that this is not something that you're going to wrench in on. So, simply going to loosen this. Lefty-loosey, righty-tighty works here. So, you want to rotate this counterclockwise or rotate it left. We are not removing these screws. We are simply loosening these screws, and there is not a lot of adjustment to pull these out, so you just want to loosen. So I've loosened this. Again, this is a 4mm. I'm now going to pull my 3mm out. These front ones are 3mm, and as you can see here, these are not world-ending tight. Simply loosening them up. Okay, so our next step is we are going to be removing this barrel. And I can tell you, the first time you do this, you can watch as many YouTube videos as you want. You can believe you know what it's going to be like, but the first time you do this, you'd swear you're about ready to break the gun. Once you do it a couple times, you get comfortable with it. So what we're going to do here is I simply grab the barrel, I hold on to the gun, and I pull this out. Now I make this look, this has come out several times, so this came out a whole lot easier than it does the first time. But trust me, if you pull this straight out, you will be fine. The barrel, this part here that goes in, this little notch goes down, right? So this barrel fits in there one way, and you will end up, when you put this back in there, you'll feel this slide in, but again, this goes straight down when you put it back in there. And so when you pull it out, you want to make sure that these two O-rings come with it. I've never had them not come there, but it's just something to make certain that you have. So put this down for safekeeping. Now there is one more thing we have to change out, and that is the actual probe. This is a 22 caliber probe, and we've got to put our 30 caliber probe into it. So in order to do that, you have to cock the gun, leave it cocked, because you want to expose this set screw. Now this set screw we will be removing. This set screw is a 2.5 millimeter. Again, these are not world-ending tight. It's not quite finger loose yet. Because the new probes do not come with this screw. So if you lose this screw, you're going to be on the phone trying to explain that to somebody what you did. Looks like this here. We're going to put that there for safekeeping. I did not have to modify the 3 millimeter or 2.5 in order to pull this or to be able to fit in here. This so happens that from the factory those lengths will work in both of these locations. So now that we've removed this set screw, this piece comes out surprisingly easy, especially for something that is important as it is. You'd think, you get this impression it would be in there with a whole lot more technology, but we simply remove that. At this point, this gun is now prepped and ready to receive the 30 cal probe and the 30 cal barrel. So here we have, this is how your barrel will come when you order it, and I just want to do a little safety announcement for you because you'll get this. You'll be excited. As you can see, there's a cap on this end that's taped. This will come taped. And interesting enough, what you want to do is the moment you break the seal on either end, first of all, these don't come marked like this end up or this is the breech end or anything like that. But what happens is when you remove this tape, you're all excited. The actual barrel itself, along with the shroud, it's not heavy, but it's heavy enough that if you're not paying attention, it's heavy enough to actually punch this cap out the end. And it will happen. At some point, if you're not careful, this cap will punch out the end, and if you're not paying attention, the whole barrel will slide out and basically land on the floor, and that's an exciting time for you. So I just recommend you be extremely careful. And so it comes like this. Your probe comes in a little packet, and then the barrel itself comes just like this. O-rings, everything ready to go. Again, you have the notch, and then you have, actually here you can actually see where the set screws were from the, I guess at the factory test. So we are now going to take this. I put the notch to the bottom. I guess we are doing pest control while we are doing an instructional video. That's okay. Here at Wisconsin Air Gunners, pest control is primary function. We're going to put this notch on the bottom. We're going to insert it and we're going to watch inside the breech right here. You're going to want to see this little piece of brass ring will come all the way in. You'll see it appear. When you see it appear, then you know you're in far enough. Right? So notch is down. This is it's a gentle but firm operation. You're not, don't be afraid of it, but then again, be aware that the notch is down. Okay, the barrel has seated, and we see the ring. It has appeared and is perfectly sticking out right there. Okay, so we're going to start with the 3mm, and what I do when I snug these up is, it's like kind of like a bolts on your tires, on your rims. First thing I want to do is just get each one so that it's just ever so slightly tight before I give each one just a little bit of additional love. Grab our 4mm, come in from behind. Now I don't put any Loctite on this. I don't pull them out, re-grease them, or do anything odd like that. I leave these set screws in, as we've said, but just, So now they are snug, but we're going to tighten them up just a little bit more. And watch, I'm just using my finger here. I'm not, not just getting on there, right? I've seen people do stuff like that, and it's like, well, that's nice. That barrel's not round anymore. So we just want to push. Yep. FX does a great job. They know what they're doing. This is what happens when you build fine machinery and it actually works the way it's supposed to. See, just like that. We're not getting on it. That's just not going to work. So next we take our 30 cal probe. So they're going to take our probe out, and what I always do is I take my handy FX towel and I just make sure there's no extra dirt, grease or grime. When I'm done assembling this all, I just put a little bit of air gun oil on this, because this part will move back and forth, and it's one of the major parts. But if you're ever curious, this is the airport where the air comes up from the gun out through there and pushes the pellet down the barrel. Ernest Rowe and a few others have some great videos on some of the mod work they do on that. Currently here at Wisconsin Air Gunners, we're shooting stock, doing very well shooting stock. So we take this and we simply slide this in, and make sure the 30 cal, basically if you line it up kind of like that right there, it gets you started. Take your screw. This isn't overly difficult, but you certainly want to make sure you get your screw. You do not want to cross thread it, so take your time. You'll notice that if it's in the right spot, the screw itself will drop down into there. So I got it lined up. One thing I always do to make sure I'm trying not to cross thread this is I will take this and just twist it left, counterclockwise, just to get it kind of lined up straight. before I then twist it with my fingers going the correct way, righty-tighty, or actually clockwise. So we're going to use our 2.5 millimeter. We're going to go in here and take our time to make certain that we tighten this down. Again, none of this is heavy torqued. There'll be no shortage of people that will say, well, just take the scope off, it'd be quicker. That's true, no doubt about it. And when you're going from 22 to 30, there will be some adjustment. But in a future video, we will show you how the Wisconsin air gunners have their rifles set up to switch between 22, 25, and 30 cal, leaving the scope in place, and actually still be able to shoot each caliber accurately without hitting a big reset button and remounting the scope and changing up your hammer spring and changing up your regulator. Will you win any bench press competitions with that setup? Probably not. Will you be able to shoot pests at 100 yards? Absolutely. Now, the thing to keep in mind when doing this, other than staying patient, is the fact that this bolt, this probe right here, will always be just a tiny bit looser than you might think it is. Simply because the way the set screw is designed. Again, we're not wrenching down on this, we're not over torquing this, we're not sitting here trying to make it so that it doesn't fly off at 60 miles an hour. Here we are again, just finger tight. I did not put any Loctite, anything like that in there. Some people may say to do that, that's their choice. I switch this out all the time, and by all the time I mean at least once a week. See, and this is tight, but notice there's ever so slightly a little bit of movement. So if you try to wrench this down so that this never moves, you're going to over torque it. So
there you go.
All right, so this can happen when after you shoot thousands and thousands of rounds and don't inspect it really careful. You can see here this pin, which is extremely tiny, holds these two together. Pardon me while I go digging for my little part there. So the idea is there is certainly a top and a bottom to this pen. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. You'll see right here on the end there is different material than what's on the other end. It's also ever so slightly chamfered. So there is certainly a right way and a wrong way to put this back together. Alright, so we're going to put this chamfered in, downside coming from the top. So you line these up. Now this is not as smooth as the barrel. You have to get it to go through. I'm going to find something to press down on that with. There we go. Once you get it started, We'll press it the rest of the way. This is where if you have a pair of pliers, you can do this a little better. It's got to go all the way in. Let's use this wrench to there we go. See how that's flush? Business. So we run the Donnie FL moderators, and so Donnie makes a great little end cap built right for the crowns. When there's no moderator on it, we have a little knurled cap that's pretty slick. But in order to do that, we have to pull this end off. Now we have ours loosened up, but they make two types of wrenches. You can get a pin wrench on Amazon. SPA 1 and SPA 2 wrenches will work for this, or you can use a needle nose pliers to come in here, and you're going to have to grip this here, and this is usually in there pretty tight, so good chance that when you're using a needle nose you're going to probably mark up the aluminum a little bit. If you use an actual pen wrench, you'll keep from marking up the wrench or marking up the end of the cap here, but bottom line of it is when you want to put your moderator on there and it's time to shoot, you're going to loosen that up. Once you get it loose, it's just finger tight. Okay. Keep those things around, because if somebody ever buys your air rifle and they don't want to pay for the moderator, you can put that back in. Now these have the little pins in there just as well, so if you have the right wrench or a pair of these needle nose, you can be careful because you don't want to mess up the threads, and you just want that to be snug. And then when not shooting the moderator, you just put your cool little knurled end on there. It looks sexy. And when you're ready to be silent death in the woods, ready to put on your Donnie FL moderator.